Hello, how I found Jesus. My name is Charles, and I am um, a Christian and a pastor, and I'd like to share my testimony to you. I found Jesus way back in 2006. It was about 15 years ago. I have been a believer of Christ for all these years, and thanks to my experience on the very first day that I found Jesus. So, I was coming from a fair. It was like a circus in my friend's school in back in the Philippines, and for some reason I lost my cousin in that fair, and I told myself I have to come back. I should just find my way home at the age of 13, and you know how it is in the Philippines. Uh, Even kids at that age know how to commute, know how to travel through jeepney, tricycle, or bus, or even train. And at that time, being a little street smart, I finally got home. And I was ready to, just play, watch TV until I had to come down to get food. And I remember when I came down, there were two pastors. At that time, I didn't know they were pastors, but they were simply passing out pamphlets about Jesus Christ and all these tracts or flyers and other literature about Christianity. And at that time, I was, yes, I would say, born as Catholic or Christian. I even grew up in a Christian school, but I didn't really have a personal relationship with Jesus yet. And that very day, I remember this couple, I think they were a couple, if I remember correctly, and they introduced themselves to me. They said they're pastors. And for some reason, I was very interested. And as a kid, I had so many questions in my mind, and that was actually the time I was already trying to look for the words of God. I was beginning to, flip the pages of the Bible in my room. It was just a display in my mom's room, but I was already, curious about it. And I remember walking to church, the Catholic church, on my own without knowing what I was doing, just because I was really a seeker. I was really looking for something more in life, I guess. Um, and their arrival and visit at the house was very, very timely. And I started asking questions about what's afterlife, what happens when we die? Are ghosts real? Are these scary movies that I watch, like The Exorcism of Emily Rose, supposed to scare me? How am I gonna avoid anything like that from happening to me at all? Or questions like how do I uh, how do my prayers get answered? And beginning then, they really answered my questions from the scriptures, and I was so amazed that the Bible has the answer for everything. Until later on, my neighbor, who happens to be part of the church that I am now pastoring, that I am now a part of, the Pentecostal Missionary Church of Christ Fort Watch. I've been in this church for 15 years, and this neighbor of mine came by and took over. The pastors had to move on, I guess. They said they lived far, but this neighbor of mine, he was an elder of this church, and he introduced me to the deeper things of the scripture. He was the one who introduced me to the church and really showed me who Christ was. And even though I have not seen Christ personally and face to face, with every Bible study that we've had from his visitations and sessions with me, I as if heard Christ speaking to me. I as if felt like Christ was really there, and he wanted to enter into my heart. And even as a young kid, I grew up in a broken family. My mother and my father were already divorced at that time. I was becoming a rebel. I was beginning to try different vices, such as drinking and smoking, those kind of things. And I was really ready to be sucked up and influenced by the world at any time. Um, and at that time, my dad, was suffering from kidney disease, and he had to go to the hospital almost 3, 4 times a week for dialysis. And I was really lost. My mother was in the U.S. and with her own family, and only my grandma was there. And you all know that grandparents have a way of spoiling their grandkids. So I was really lost. But at that moment, I knew that Jesus was really trying to fix my life, trying to change me. And sooner, I was able to attend the church, um, which I was invited by the wife of my neighbor, because the neighbor was actually Brother Fernand. That was his name. And Sister Gina, his wife, was the one who eventually invited me to attend one of the Bible studies at the church, which happened to be just 5 minutes away from the house. So, um, and the moment that I attended the church, I said, man, this is where I belong. This is all along what I was looking for. The singing, the praise and worship was very heartfelt. I really felt like the presence of God was there. The message and the sermon of the bishop, who is a bishop now, his name is Bishop Ossie. He is doing so well in Manila, and in just a short amount of time, I decided to be baptized. And that's when I was born again. That's when I felt like all my sins were cleansed. That's when I felt I am a totally different person. So from a person who would always hate, who would always rebel, who would always um, do negative things, even among my household members, I would be very rude and um, pretty much heartless, not caring about how I'm hurting other people around me with my words. But when I was baptized, as if I had that compelling emotion in my heart to change, and that's exactly when I found Jesus. I found Jesus through his words. I found Jesus in his church. And as I continue on in this faith, through the help of the pastors, the bishop, the elders, and also the faith community in Manila, within few months, I was rooted in the faith. And months after that, I immigrated to the United States, and thank God, the same church, has a branch there. And my faith continued on until I decided to be a pastor. And thanks to that day that I met Jesus, it wasn't any extraordinary in a way. It wasn't a life and death situation, but for sure, it was definitely a simple yet life changing encounter with Jesus. It was so timely, as if he knew where, when, and how to find me. So, this is my simple testimony, and I hope that more and more of us can share our testimonies about how we met and found Jesus in our lives. So, yeah, God bless you. Godspeed.